Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. It's the France 24 debate, and we're looking at how the election of Donald Trump in the United States is having an influence here in Europe. We're doing so in the company of Antoinette Laurent of Republicans Overseas France. Welcome back. Welcome back as well to Laura Slimani, president of the Young European Socialists. What is that, a confederation of socialist or left-leaning parties across Europe, right?
Yeah, it's a gathering of all socialist youth organizations in Europe.
Okay, also a municipal councillor in the French city of Rouen. And we're with Julien Barlan, who's preparing for the center-right Les Républicains U.S.-style two-round presidential primary.
Well, in the U.S., you have 50 rounds if you think about it.
It's
so
true.
2 rounds.
Who's your horse to make the runoff?
Nicolas Sarkozy.
You're supporting the former president.
I do, yes.
And we also
I will explain why.
Okay, we welcome back from Antwerp Tom van Grieken, leader of Belgium's Flemish nationalist Vlaams Belang party. Bragging rights for the first elected official from Europe to meet Trump since his election go to a member of the same voting bloc as the Vlaams Belang. That is European Parliament member Nigel Farage of UKIP. Alexander Alcott has the story.
Nigel Farage was one of the only European politicians to openly support Donald Trump's presidency. And clearly the real estate billionaire hasn't forgotten. It's put Farage in an ideal position to serve as an unofficial intermediary to build bridges between the UK and the future inhabitant of the White House. Farage shared a photo of the pair together, where he said it was a great honour to spend time with Donald Trump. He was relaxed and full of good ideas, adding that he's confident he'll make a good president. In the immediate aftermath of Trump's shock election victory, Nigel Farage wasted no time in congratulating him, calling 2016 the year of 2 political revolutions. Even if Trump's rhetoric has toned down since winning the election, the Farage meeting hints at continued close ties to those on the right of European politics. Also this Sunday, French far-right leader Marine Le Pen told the BBC that Trump's election victory boosts her chances of becoming president in 2017.
He's made possible what had previously been presented as impossible. So it's really the victory of the people against the elites.
Marine Le Pen is a favourite to make it through to the presidential runoff next year.
Let me begin with you and just ask you, Julien Barlan, has this boosted her chances for the presidency?
Marine Le Pen's? Well, hopefully not. Think about it. She has been an outspoken Trump supporter from the beginning, so how will she be a kind of weight to him?
Well, it makes it seem plausible. Trump. It makes it seem plausible, doesn't it?
It's going to be a tough club, right? You're going to have in the same room Putin, you're going to have Trump, you're going to have Xi Jinping from China. You need to have a strong president. Marine Le Pen.
Right, but that's your opinion. But let me ask you, is the election of Trump, does it make it seem more plausible that the far right could win?
It certainly shows that populism is can prevail. I just hope it won't. She has been doing pretty well in the polls, if you want to be honest on this question. But
she's slated to go to the second round.
If I can just say, this is also a story that has been said over and over by the media for the past week, and I'm just worried on how much repetition there is in the political spectrum instead of actually trying to analyze what's going on. And I think that indeed, Marine Le Pen's election is more likely today than in the past, but it's probably not because of Trump's election. It's because of the mistakes of European leaders and that European leaders have been making in the past. And I think that after that, we need less summits and we need more decisions at the European level. I think this raises questions on how we review trade deals. And with Young European Socialists, we have been campaigning against TTIP and against CETA before they became problematic at the European level. And we also campaign for Europe to be a space where social standards are harmonized, where fiscal standards are harmonized, so that we put an end to social dumping. And these are progressive responses, progressive answers to the problems that Europeans are facing. If we don't give these answers, obviously people are going to turn to populist and far-right vote, and this is what we have to avoid. But for that, we need to talk less in these kinds of debates, and we need to have leaders that actually act when they have a possibility to.
All right, the chief strategist for Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, told French news station LCI, "We think France is a place where we need to be. talking about Breitbart, with its young entrepreneurs and the women of the Le Pen family, the women, plural, of the Le Pen family, a nod to both the National Front leader Marine Le Pen and her more hardline 26-year-old first cousin Marion Maréchal Le Pen. Bannon describes the members of that member of parliament as the new rising star. She tweeted in English her willingness to work with the former Breitbart boss. I answer yes to the invitation of Stephen Bannon to work together. Antoinette Laurent, how does this make you feel?
To be honest with you, I don't follow French politics very closely. I have enough trouble following my own countries.
But is Donald Trump a kindred spirit to France's far right?
Well, my experience in France is that 80% of the media is sort of left-leaning, and there isn't really that right balance, like Fox News or...
Well, it depends on what you call balance.
But, I mean,
politics is also more balanced.
From what I understand, the state also subsidizes some of the media outlets in France. So I don't know. Does there need to be more balance in France? Maybe.
That wasn't my question. My question was, is Donald Trump the same political family as France's National Front?
I don't see that parallel whatsoever. Donald Trump has been a private figure all of his life. Marine Le Pen and her family have been in the public spectrum. I don't see the parallel whatsoever.
Well, and yet he's meeting with Nigel Farage. That yet everyone who is congratulating are from the far right family in Europe. So I'm sorry,
Marine
but
Le Pen was
look at your president's friends, and you will also see his true face.
All right, let's bring in Tom Van Grieken on this. Tom, let me ask you. Tom Van Grieken, is Donald Trump and Marine Le Pen and her cousin Marion Maréchal Le Pen, are they from the same political family as Donald Trump?
I don't think so, but they have some things in common. First of all, I disagree that Mr. Trump or Marine Le Pen are far right. In French, ni droite ni gauche mais nationale. They're patriots. Therefore, it's nothing extreme about their points of view. But they share one thing in common. The open borders, the globalization, has people who benefit from it. Those are the classical liberals, the multinationals who can find cheap labor forces all over the world, and the left-wing...
Oh, and Donald Trump never did that, right?
And they are the winners of globalization. And yes, Donald J. Trump did the same, but they say, I know how to stop it. And you see a lot of people on the other side who the classical left completely neglected, the forgotten voters, the workers in multinational firms who got fired and because of cheaper workforces, the people in construction who lose their jobs because of illegal immigrants, the small business owner who gets bankrupt because of a big brand magazine who's coming next door. Those people are forgotten. Their voice is not heard for years.
Okay,
and
well, all right, but this is the rhetoric that we're hearing. This is the rhetoric we're hearing from Marine Le Pen on the campaign trail. But in her own political family, we're hearing more talk that's anti-Muslim. Marion Maréchal Le Pen, who likens herself more to her grandfather, the party founder Jean-Marie Le Pen, who's a Holocaust denier in the past at times. This is
no longer a member of the Front National. I don't care. I don't see what.
Still, he's associated with it. Come on.
Yes, yeah.
We're talking about the extremist far right.
Should they connect the family ties as well? Is that what the left-wing side of this?
All right, I'll put it differently. Should she be distancing herself from a Holocaust denier?
She what?
Should she be distancing herself from a Holocaust denier, which she doesn't?
Yeah, politically, they're not in the same political party.
Yeah, but didn't she attend a neo-Nazi ball a few years ago in Austria? Some of the closest people around her are from the most radical hate groups ever existing in France, and you can't deny that these connections exist. She's from the far right. She's from the extreme right, and you're just attempting to erase that from the discussion.
It's not because you're president of a Marxist youth movement in Europe that the ball in Vienna.
Well, that was cheap. I'm sorry, that was very cheap. But it's okay. From you, I don't expect more.
You call it a Nazi ball, where there.
Yeah, she attended a neo-Nazi ball. Look it up.
Hofer was there.
Yes, he was.
Top of the opinion polls. They're no Nazis. They're simply patriots. You should stop
Well,
the
look at their
propaganda.
history. I'm
So-
sorry, you're just denying history.
All right. By the way, this is an important
FPÖ
argument
is a
about Austria
liberal
because
party from history. You don't know your history.
we're about to have a presidential election where that party could win.
We're going to have plenty of elections
sure.
coming up in
In
Europe.
Austria,
What this
in
discussion
Austria,
is showing is
all those-
there certainly are
those
problems
words
that
of
need to be
extremism and
addressed,
Nazism.
but
They're simply
utilizing
patriots
populist rhetoric like you are doing, sir, is just not going to fix the problem. I think it's actually interesting that what this is showing is that the Republican parties, I'm saying in the more general meaning of the term, will agree on that turning to populism will just not work. Just saying I'm going to shut down the borders is not going to create jobs. That's just not the way it works.
All right. The trend in Europe, by the way, is we saw on Sunday parties close to Russia get big wins in Bulgaria and Moldova in elections. We've seen a pendulum swing, and then there's the announcement this Monday: Germany's foreign minister, now tipped to become the country's next president, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, more left-wing than many inside his Social Democratic Party, effectively kicked upstairs by Angela Merkel, and he's going to be, if he becomes, and he looks like he will be, the next president. Laura Slimani, let me ask you, the French left is in disarray. If you look at the polls, the German left in the elections that are coming up, not expected to fare well. In this discussion that you're talking about jobs and how to make globalization work for working class people, the left seems to be more and more shut out of it.
Yeah, and this is why I think that Trump's election, like the Brexit, like previous warnings, have to be actual warnings followed by decisions, decisions that show to the people that the socialists and social democrats are actually fighting for the working people. And I think that this implies to change a strategy at the European level. For instance, I was very admirative of what Paul Magnette did in order to, the president of Wallonia, in order to block CETA and in order to block a trade deal that was clearly not in the interest of European people. And I think that we need more of these strategies because, unfortunately, the institutional framework at the European Union at the moment is working against progressive politics. And for progressive policies to be implemented at the European level, we need to stall the European Council until we have a common minimum wage in Europe, for instance. And I think that these kind of strategies are not implemented at the moment, and that's also why we're failing to change people's lives for the better.
That can be implemented for the better, but like I was saying, it's too easy, it's too cheap to say, oh, trade doesn't work. Trade works. On an aggregate level,
not any trade works.
Unfortunately, for some people, it doesn't.
It's not true. It depends on the kind of trade. And the trade of the 21st century cannot be the same as the trade of the 20th century. Trade in the 21st century has to be about preserving social standards.
And yet
it has to be about environmental standards. It has to be about promoting human rights at the international level. And at the moment, the European Union is not doing that, and people know it.
Free trade, is that something that's dead in the water after the election of Donald Trump? New free trade deals?
Realistically, probably. But the problem is it's because now we sort of like all start to think that trade is necessarily a bad thing, which is not.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying you need to qualify trade. What kind of trade? What is the point?
Annually.
What
That's
is
the
the point
GDP
of
France
trading?
in nominal terms.
What is the point of building the exact same thing and then trading it over in two different countries over the sea? It's just creating gas emissions. It's not making people's lives better.
When it comes to Europe, we have to implement fixes. You have named some. I don't necessarily disagree with everything you said. We have, for instance, to implement tax harmonization throughout Europe. Otherwise, you create dumping.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. But the problem is that your parties are blocking it all the time at the European Parliament, at the European Council, and we're not doing it. Even though the Commission is conservative, the Council is majoritarily conservative, the Parliament is majoritarily conservative, and yet we're not seeing any of that. So don't pretend that you want to change Europe when your parties are doing everything they can not to.
You're in power, though, and your parliament has had full
in
power
France.
for. So, I mean,
In France,
on
yes,
a
not
micro
at the European
level, on a micro
level.
level, why hasn't France's economy shown robust growth or robust progress, economic progress?
Well, I think that the
And what's
French
the
socialist
problem?
government should have done much more, if you ask me, and this is what I've been saying for the past
1.2
4
million
years. So I'm not
extra
uncomfortable
unemployed
with
people in
criticizing my own
France.
political family.
Well, I mean, the proof is in the pudding, as we say.
Tom van Grieken.
You fail in your own country with a social president, and it's Europe to solve it. You can't do it in your own country.
Tom,
No, the solution is not more European Union. The solution is less European Union, where free nation states can
Less
decide
European Union,
who
Tom,
to
let me ask
trade
you,
with or not.
let me ask you then, because there was Germany and France this Monday touting the idea of a common European defense. It would be a cost-saving measure, and also with the US now wavering over its support for NATO. What do you think of that idea?
Yeah, first of all, I thought it was quite late that you have to wait after an election in the US to think about your own military
It had
military
been on the
strategy
agenda.
as
It had
Europe.
been on the agenda, in fairness.
Yeah,
It's been
I
discussed
personally
in
think
Europe
we should
since
act
the
more.
1950s, so-
I simply said 2 words. You interrupt me already. Just a moment, please. That's how democracy works. First of all, I think we should not walk too long anymore on the hand of big America. We did the stupid boycott of Russia. For what? Our farmers are in trouble now because of the boycott of Russia. I think Europe should be strong. I think Europe should have its own military policy. But on the other hand, I do not believe in one European army. If you really think that a Finnish general could lead Spanish troops, that they would accept it like that, that would be completely nonsense.
But that's not how it works. It's pooling together European armies.
Which I'm for. I think
Yeah, but you have to start by
cooperation among
saying-
European
So,
nations
so
is
don't
good.
criticize it to begin with if you're in favor
No.
of it.
Therefore, I say it's a good thing that they start thinking about a European military strategy which is more free from NATO. I agree on that completely. That's a good thing.
All right. After the crisis dinner on Sunday that some did not attend, the EU foreign ministers were reacting this Monday to Trump's talk of reviewing U.S. commitment to NATO. Most in the room aghast at last week's results. Some, though, see the bright side.
There's a big change going on in the world. People who feel they haven't been properly listened to, properly represented, are starting to make their voices heard. It's up to us, up to everybody to listen to them and to take things forward in a positive way. Look, Donald Trump, as I've said before, is a deal maker. And I think that can be a good thing for Britain, but it can also be a good thing for Europe.
Julien Barlon, you agree?
We'll see how Trump decides to lead. I mean, he's elected, right? So we need to deal with him. I will give him the benefit of the doubt, and we will see how things play out. Certainly, there could be an opportunity for Europe, but I see it as Europe uniting, being more powerful. We need a leader in Europe. We don't have a leader currently, and if Trump actually withdraws the United States from, or take it to a different level in terms of international diplomacy, involvement in NATO and on all these things, then it's a huge opportunity for Europe. Yes, it is.
What about on the issue of Brexit? Because now there's talk that this is going to embolden the hard Brexit camp. Is that what we could see?
Well, this is more a question for our UK, friends. But what I mean, the connection I would make with Brexit is that Brexit was a warning, and everything was going to fall apart, and it was the end of the world. And then, meetings kept happening, and then in the end there was not much of a change. And I'm afraid that it's the same is going to happen with Donald Trump's election, which is that everyone is being alarmed about it. But then actually, I'm not sure that European leaders are understanding what is going on the Brexit camp in itself. I mean, I think it's up to the British people to decide what kind of Brexit they want, but it's clear that they can't get access to a free trade market if they don't comply with the rules that everyone else complies with, which is
If they want a hard Brexit,
free
so
movement
be it,
of
but we
people.
need to be tough as well.
And Europe has to be tough, indeed.
All right. I want to thank you, Laura Slimani. I want to thank Julien Barlon. I want to thank Antoinette. As well, Antoinette Laurent, as well, Tom van Grieken for joining us from Antwerp. Stay with us.
Thank you very much.
Our Media Watch segment is next. And we say hello to James Creedon.
Hi, François.
Yeah, we were mentioning Breitbart, and its former boss now is going to be the chief strategist at the White House.
That's right, and indeed a lot of reaction today in France about the fact that Steve Bannon, who was the CEO of Trump's campaign, former director of the what is qualified as alt-right, we'll get to that later, website Breitbart, is now planning to open up a French version of the website. Let me see if I can find the headline on that. A lot of reactions across the media on the fact that they want to extend the franchise to France and to Germany. I suppose a little bit along the model of the Huffington Post, which started out as a US, more left-leaning website and now has kind of extended that brand globally. We have Christopher Dickey here for the Daily Beast referring to Steve Bannon's dream, a worldwide ultra-right, and he refers to Breitbart, the website, which you can see here, as a pseudo news service. So I guess a lot of concern about it. Even Glenn Beck, the sort of Fox News commentator, who is himself not exactly the most moderate individual, has referred to Steve Bannon as acting as the Goebbels to Donald Trump's brown shirts. So this is somebody who's going to have quite a serious position in Trump's White House, and who is wishing to extend, or at least the website that he helped to found is wishing to extend its influence now into the European political space. LCI, the French news channel here, referring to him as the man who whispers in Donald Trump's ear, his sort of éminence grise. And you have Le Monde also talking about how it wants to implant itself in France and in Germany. So quite a lot of reactions to that coming from, indeed, even the far right. Marion Maréchal Le Pen, who represents, I suppose, the right side of the far-right party, the National Front, has said that she would be quite happy to work with Steve Bannon. So clearly, there is an attempt to even forge direct links with the far right in France. That's Marion Le Pen on Twitter saying, "I answer yes to the invitation of Steve Bannon, CEO of Donald Trump's presidential campaign, to work together during the French elections." Now, this is a piece by Nicholas Kristof referring to the general sort of tendency of the alt-right news world to propagate in many ways lies in the guise of news in the Trump era. Breitbart is not the most extreme example of it. You've got websites such as Alex Jones Infowars.com, which mix conspiracy theory, outright untruths, and elements of truth that maybe get downplayed in perhaps the so-called mainstream media, which creates this potent mix that a lot of people will swallow down as 100% true. For example, still, as Nicholas Kristof points out, still only 44% of Republicans accept the reality that Obama was born in the US. So when facts get lost along the way, you're left with two entirely parallel and disconnected universes in many senses, portraying different versions of reality.
Is it the same here in France that we're going to we have because we saw with both Democrats and the Republicans, everybody spoke to their own base with these new ways of communicating and stuff?
Well, certainly people are using the internet and everything to propagate all sort of theories. I think it's important to always make sure that what you're learning from those websites is accurate. And some of them you have named are not really good examples.
Right. It's interesting to look at, I suppose, the situation in France. You have l'Express.fr, which refers to Breitbart as a reactionary and racist news website, and it's now targeting France. They actually make a comparison with a French website called F de Souche. Now, I would say the comparison is accurate up to a point, but F de Souche, even just to unpack that name, means native white French.
And it's also...
So even the title of the website is racist, whereas Breitbart is a lot more subtle in its
But it's much more professional now in the way it looks than it was even a few years ago.
Yeah, it used to be some sort of blog.
And this is, I think, the trend that we're seeing coming from the US as well. I think the protection we have in France is that we still have public media, to be frank. But.
All right, so this mix of conjecture and news that's sort of muddled together, how's it playing out on social media, most notably on Facebook?
Right, it's certainly one of the connective unexpected factors. You can see that Facebook has been largely criticised, in fact, since the election for having a role in propagating fake news and creating a polarised sort of landscape, echo chambers where people, you know, their friends are sharing, they share their political points of view, and so you're only being exposed via these social networks to people who share your opinion.
Yeah, but
so
you befriend who you want to befriend. I mean, so...
True,
That's
but
kind of remember, Facebook was accused of switching the algorithm so that conservative news web sites were oppressed.
Right.
So...
Right. Well, in any case, they may now have to really take a look at their structure, at their business model, because they could also then be accused of interfering with people's freedom to share whatever they want, and that space.
It'll be interesting to monitor this situation, but I think accusing Facebook of being, you know, propagating theories or news. I mean, again, you're free to put whatever you want on Facebook and your friend book, whoever you want to be on Facebook.
Yeah, but then Facebook shows you publications according to what you're posting. So it's not assuming that you want to see everything. It's assuming you want to see
what they've also been trying to do
agreeing
recently
with.
is if you share an article giving one point of view, they suggest articles that will provide another point of view.
I understand, but you can't expect from Facebook to show you everything and anything.
But it's just a fact that social media has changed the way in which people consume news. So it's perhaps not their personal responsibility, but it's a fact that social media feeds into how people now get their information and how it creates echo chambers.
All right, we'll be second-guessing those algorithms all the way to those French elections come next spring. I want to thank our panel once again. Thank you for joining us here in the France 24 debate.